This study will look at two different areas in London and see what sociological factors can allow these places to look so different in the modern era. The two places that are being focused on are not far away from each other. Geographically, there are only a few miles between the two locations, but let's start with the first. Here's a picture to help you guess what locations will be covered over the next 10 minutes. Can any of you guess? The first one that has been identified is of course Chris Street Market. It still holds its charm today, and I was lucky to see it in its current state as of August 2018. There is a DLR station located right next to the market, All Saints, and is only a short walk away from the market. As you can see from these images, the station itself isn't very extravagant. It does its job and only has two platforms going either towards Stratford or Poplar. Let's take a look at some of the shops and the market in Chris Street. Near the market we can see an array of different shops like a cafe, a laundromat and a supermarket. Nothing out of the ordinary in a shopping area in London. It isn't too nice as to stand out, but doesn't feel out of place in the environment. The market itself also shows an array of different fruit, clothing and other products on sale, generally at an affordable price for people in the area. It's also not uncommon to see the area decorated in graffiti art, adding a little bit of colour to an otherwise bland setting. Other stores we can find there are things like a butcher's, general goods stores, a discount furniture shop and a jeweller. Next, let's take a look at some of the architecture in and around the market. The buildings in Chris Street Market are typically multi-levelled. I say typically because there are a few modern buildings in the area, but we will cover them later. Here we can see that a lot of the shops around the market are under housing. Judging from the area, I would say that this is council housing rather than privately rented, probably owned by the people on the market and shop owners surrounding it. Nonetheless, this trend continues around the area surrounding the market. As you can see, the pictures at the top show the new modern housing I referred to earlier. Although on the outskirts of the market area, you can see just how much of a drastic change this is to other buildings in the market. They look extremely out of place in the overall picture of Chris Street Market, and this would probably appeal to higher social class than that associated with the market. Our next focus is of course Canary Wharf, a financial district in East London and home to an array of FTSE 100 companies and banks like Citigroup and HSBC, whose logos you can see at the tops of the extremely tall buildings. Similarly with Chris Street, we will start with the DLR station. As you can see, the entrance to the station is large, modern and somewhat pleasing on the eye. It also has that feeling that you are entering a high-class area. The station itself can hold up to 4 running trains. The station can go in 3 different directions: Stratford, Lewisham and Bank. The platforms themselves can be heavily lighted and look extremely clean and almost new. Once you go down the escalators into one of the 3 shopping malls at Canary Wharf, you are greeted to a large open space, again that looks very well maintained and also looks very modern. Canary Wharf also has an underground station which, like the DLR station, looks almost clean, modern and of course expensive. The escalators also coming out of the station are able to accommodate a lot of people, with 6 escalators in operation. One of them is being hidden by the pillar, but I assure you, it is there. It's able to move large groups of people entering and exiting the station. Here we can see what the entrance to the underground station looks like, and a bit of what the architecture of the buildings look like. As mentioned previously, the station has the capacity to hold a lot of people using the line. This also takes a look into different types of people we can find in Canary Wharf, the white middle class. What types of shops can we expect to find in Canary Wharf? Will it be similar to what we saw in Chris Street Market, or will it be different? Right off the bat, we can see how clean and modern the shopping mall is, almost like new, like the rest of Canary Wharf. As you can see, an array of different shops like jewellers, cafes, and even an optician. Here we can see that the layout of all the shops in the mall are similar. Clean, glossy marble floor, flashy signs to show the shop, and the obvious picture of a car lot dealership within the mall for high-end vehicles. We also have an outdoor bar that we can also see looks extremely modern, spacious, and clean. Of course, Canary Wharf houses a high-end jewellery store, again catering to the demographic of the area, the white middle class. Now that we have seen what it looks like in the mall, let's see what the architecture looks like. Here we have some of the major buildings of Canary Wharf that can be seen across East London. One Canada Square, the HSBC and Citigroup buildings. On the sides, even though the buildings don't look new, what we can see that they are more developed than the buildings are in Chris Street. Here we can see an image of the east side of Canary Wharf. Again, the buildings look modern, using glass and steel to construct them, rather than the traditional brick and mortar. We can see sleek designs and walkways with a different style of lampposts. Expensive materials like marble are used heavily in Canary Wharf, again giving a sense of higher status and wealth. Finally, an image that doesn't show high-rise skyscrapers. Although this looks similar to Chris Street Market, it is somewhat different. The balconies pictured beneath the restaurants are not houses. They are in fact hotel rooms, sitting in front of the river. Here are some more examples in some of the offices in Canary Wharf. They have modern designs, glass windows and doors, and really show that the area is for a certain demographic. Unfortunately, I was unable to continue the exploration at Canary Wharf. At this point, I was stopped by security and escorted out of the area. I was also given a 2-year ban from entering the area. But let's look at one of the reasons why I was stopped and subsequently searched by police in Canary Wharf. A common opinion would be the labelling theory. You could argue that at the time I was labelled as a deviant. I wasn't conforming to the dress code, which already made me stand out from everyone else, and I was taking pictures. In their eyes, I'm a deviant and I'm suspicious. But what gives us a label? Behaviour is defined by groups in society, especially those in power to establish that definition, like the police, carry weight. A more interesting reason is of course racism and discrimination. On this occasion, I did not conform to the dress code of the area, and I did not fit the demographic either. I'm not a white middle class male, and as such this could be argued that I was a target. Teun Van Dijk identifies ways that people construct racist discourse. In my case, I fit 3 out of the 5. I was seen as different based on my attire and skin colour, deviant as I was behaving in a way that was abnormal, and seen as a threat. With that though, let's cover some of the sociological theory behind why the two areas in East London, not far from each other, look so different. Historically, new arrivals in the UK would settle in areas where housing and work were more readily available. Looking at how Chris Street Market is set up, we can see that housing and business is set up both in and around the market. It is also not uncommon that home ownership can also affect where people settle. As I mentioned earlier, it can be surmised that the majority of the housing in the area would be under the control of the council, and as such make it cheaper for people to live in the area as opposed to Canary Wharf. There is a clear distinction between the social classes of the two areas. Canary Wharf's demographic is typically of the white, middle and higher classes. The attire seen here is typically business attire, which most of the working class would not use for work. This would explain why Canary Wharf looks like it's cleaned daily to maintain its image, while Chris Street Market has nowhere near the level of cleanliness as Canary Wharf. Let's consider for a moment that both areas look the same. If both have high-rise skyscrapers, marble floors and glass buildings, would the market still exist? Would the shops that were shown previously still be there, or would they be replaced, and who would work there? Would we still see a multicultural demographic, or would that also change? We have seen what new housing looks like in Chris Street. It doesn't have glass, steel and marble around the areas. Although it's new, it still looks affordable. But why? Why would new buildings in Canary Wharf still look similar to the others in the area, while the new buildings in Chris Street look different from the houses in the area, but not like Canary Wharf? The answer to that lies in habitus and classness. Pierre Bourdieu, a French sociologist, is renowned for his theories on understanding people's practices and the context in which they occur. Here we will look at habitus and cultural, field and capital. Habitus is the concept that expresses the way in which individuals become themselves. This can either be attitude and dispositions to the way they engage with the world. For example, an artist would take part in certain activities and have perspectives that express the culture and history of the artistic field. Going back to Canary Wharf, we can see high-rise skyscrapers, expensive building materials, marble floors and an array of shops that cater to the demographic of the area. Here we can see that the habitus here would be that of bankers, accountants, lawyers and other professions that the middle class would occupy. Cultural field looks at the series of institutions, rules, conventions and designations. Cultural fields tend to be fluid and dynamic rather than static. This might explain why I was stopped in Canary Wharf because of the change of the cultural field to stop any potential threat in the area, but I wasn't seen as a threat in Chris Street Market. We can see how the interaction between the rules and institutions in practice. Cultural capital can also affect your position in society. Let's look at the demographic of Chris Street Market. Here it is predominantly multicultural. You are likely to see a mixed demographic between young and old. Families may strive to get their children educated so they are able to work in Canary Wharf and become part of the environment. However, the habitus of the children will disqualify them for success. This isn't due to educational success, but merely the mannerisms, language and culture does not fit in with those in Canary Wharf, who would already have been exposed through their culture, fields, the mannerisms, language and the culture that would be able to make them successful in that environment. Comparing both Canary Wharf and Chris Street Market, we have seen how Canary Wharf looks brand new, like no one has ever stepped inside, even though we know that thousands of people move across the area daily. However, you can see that Chris Street Market has unkept pavements, buildings that look old and graffiti art. This could be seen as symbolic violence. Forms that show an inequality or inferiority. They are denied resources and limited in their aspirations. It could just be described as the way the world works, or the natural order of things. There are glaring differences between the two areas, both in appearance, upkeep, and the demographic. There are a multitude of social and economic factors that can allow this. I've only focused on the sociological views as to why these areas are different. Thanks for watching. Now I have to see if I can get my ban lifted. Wish me luck.